Trump thought he could humiliate Jasmine Crockett during a Homeland Security hearing on live C-SPAN. He called her anti-American, accused her of loving criminals, and sneered that she had never worn the uniform. But when the freshman congresswoman from Texas calmly opened a single black folder stamped FOIA request, approved, everything changed. What followed in the next 15 minutes made nearly one-third of ICE agents quietly submit resignation letters, crashed private detention contractor stocks by more than $4 billion in a single afternoon, forced 3 CEOs to testify under oath while invoking the fifth, caused a decorated Vietnam veteran to break down sobbing on national television, triggered a leaked phone recording that made Trump's own chief of staff resign by nightfall, and left the President of the United States completely speechless after one single question about contractor donations. This is the story of how one congresswoman, armed only with receipts, dismantled an entire administration's immigration enforcement apparatus in real time, on live television, in front of 75 million Americans. The House Committee on Homeland Security hearing room was packed that Tuesday afternoon, unusual for any committee hearing, absolutely unprecedented for one scheduled on just 48 hours' notice. C-SPAN cameras covered every angle. The public gallery overflowed with immigration advocates clutching thick folders of personal testimonies, Department of Homeland Security employees in crisp dress uniforms, and row after row of veterans wearing service caps from Vietnam, the Gulf War, Iraq, and Afghanistan, an unbroken cross-section of American military history sitting in silent judgment. At the witness table sat Donald Trump himself, a sitting president voluntarily appearing before a congressional committee to defend immigration policy was almost unheard of in American history. Yet Trump had demanded the appearance himself. At 6:47 a.m. that morning, he had posted on Truth Social, "I have nothing to hide. Unlike the do-nothing Democrats on this committee, I'm not afraid of the truth. I'm coming to set the record straight on my tremendously successful ICE policies, the most successful in history. Everyone says so." He sat flanked by 3 nervous aides. His chief of staff looked like a man carrying a permanent migraine. The acting DHS secretary shuffled papers as if they were on fire. Trump's personal attorney scribbled notes with the frantic energy of someone already drafting emergency motions to quash subpoenas. Trump had brought a prepared 22-page opening statement, triple-spaced, covered in sharpest scrawls and exclamation points. He looked confident, almost eager. This was his arena. Confrontation, cameras, control. Committee members took their places in the traditional semicircle. Republicans on the right, polishing softball questions disguised as praise. Democrats on the left, sharpening knives but unsure exactly where to strike. 4 chairs down from the chairman sat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, navy blue suit, calm posture, hands folded. In front of her lay one unopened black portfolio, and behind her, 3 large banker boxes labeled Exhibit A, Exhibit B, and Exhibit C. While everyone else fidgeted with notes and whispered strategy, she simply wrote, deliberate and precise, never looking up. The chairman gavels the session to order. The Committee on Homeland Security convenes this emergency special session to examine the implementation, oversight, and human impact of recent immigration enforcement policies. Mr. President, thank you for appearing voluntarily. You may proceed with your opening statement. Trump didn't need a second invitation. He launched into the familiar rhythm Americans had heard 1,000 times before. We have the strongest border in history, the strongest anyone has ever seen. Border Patrol agents, ICE heroes, they come up to me with tears in their eyes and say, "Sir, you're the first president who lets us do our job. Look at these numbers." He held up a laminated chart with bars shooting upward like fireworks. Arrests up 340%. 340. That's not just good. That's incredible. We're getting criminals off the streets, keeping American families safe. The fake news media won't tell you, but ICE agents love me. They know I'm the only president with the guts to enforce the law. He spoke for 17 uninterrupted minutes, forcing the chairman to cut him off 3 separate times for time. Republicans nodded on cue. Democrats tried small jabs. family separations, detention conditions, court backlogs. But Trump swatted each away with the ease of a man who had done this dance for years. Finally, he concluded, chest puffed. I'm happy to take any real questions. Not gotcha questions from people who want open borders and chaos. The chairman turned the page on his list. Congresswoman Crockett, you have 15 minutes. 40 minutes of silence from the freshman ended right there. Trump spun toward her like a gun turret locking on target. Oh, here we go. The public defender, he sneered, voice dripping with contempt. You know what she did before Congress, folks? Defended criminals, rapists, drug dealers, MS, 13 animals. While our brave ICE agents were protecting America, she was in court trying to get them released on technicalities. Her district is a disaster. Crime everywhere. She's never served a day in uniform. My father created thousands of jobs, but she thinks she knows better than me about protecting this country. She'd rather hug illegals than salute veterans. The room grew uncomfortably quiet. Even Republican members shifted in their seats. This was unusually vicious, even for him. Crockett made one small note, 3 words, then folded her hands and looked not at Trump, but at the chairman. Thank you, Mr. President, for that comprehensive introduction, she began, voice so soft the stenographer leaned forward to hear. Before I ask my questions, I'd like to establish something for the record. You mentioned my 6 years as a public defender. You are correct. I represented American citizens who could not afford private attorneys, exactly as guaranteed by the Sixth Amendment you swore to uphold. 23% of my clients were later fully exonerated or had charges dismissed for lack of evidence. One of them, Marcus Williams, spent 3 years in prison for a crime DNA later proved he did not commit. He is now a Dallas police officer, one of those brave law enforcement officers you claim to support. Trump tried to interrupt. The chairman banged the gavel. The gentlewoman has the floor. Crockett continued as if she had never been interrupted. I mention this only because you seem to believe defending constitutional rights makes someone unpatriotic. I disagree. The right to counsel and the presumption of innocence are not obstacles to justice. They are justice. She reached forward and, with deliberate calm, opened the black portfolio. The metallic clasp clicked like a judge's gavel in the dead silent room. Mr. President, you have repeatedly claimed your policies revolutionized immigrant detention through private sector excellence. On March 15, you signed Executive Order Sam 226 in a widely televised Rose Garden ceremony. You called it the biggest and best detention reform in history. Americans saw the photo op. What they did not see was what the order actually did. She lifted the first document so the C-SPAN cameras could zoom in. This is an internal ICE memo, marked confidential, internal use only, obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request 6 weeks ago. I will read the highlighted portion verbatim. Agent retention has reached crisis levels. In the past 6 months, 32% of field agents have submitted resignation or transfer requests. Common themes in exit interviews. Moral distress over enforcement priorities, concern that performance metrics reward volume over safety, frustration that gang and trafficking enforcement has been deprioritized, and family pressure due to negative public perception. 32%, Mr. President. Nearly 1 in 3 of your heroic ICE agents are desperately trying to leave the agency you claim adores you. Does that sound like unanimous love? Trump snapped. Those are political holdovers from Obama, who never wanted. Crockett's voice cut through like a scalpel. The memo continues, quote, Border gang interdiction has decreased 40% since Q1 due to resource reallocation toward interior enforcement operations that generate higher arrest numbers with lower operational risk. She set the page down gently. Translation, your policies created a quota system. Agents are incentivized to make any arrest that pads the stats. Picking up a landscaper at a 7-Eleven is easy, fast, and boosts numbers. Dismantling a human trafficking ring is hard, dangerous, and produces fewer arrests. So your agents stopped chasing criminals and started chasing spreadsheets because you care more about charts you can tweet than actual public safety. Trump's face began to redden. We are stopping more criminals then. I have 47 resignation letters right here, Crockett said, lifting a thick folder. I will read one. She opened it to a bookmarked page. Agent Patricia Morales, 12-year veteran, former Marine, 2 combat tours in Iraq. She voted for you twice, Mr. President. She used to keep your photo in her office. This is what she wrote last week. I joined ICE to protect Americans from dangerous criminals, human trafficking, gangs, cartels. Instead, I spend my days arresting restaurant workers and landscapers to meet arbitrary quotas that have nothing to do with public safety. Last Tuesday, I detained a father picking up his daughter from elementary school. She was 8 years old, a U.S. citizen, screaming for her daddy. He had no criminal record, had lived here 20 years, paid taxes, employed 8 Americans. This is not law enforcement. This is cruelty with paperwork. I did not serve my country in Fallujah to come home and terrorize families. I am done. Agent Morales resigned last Friday, along with 6 other agents in the Houston field office alone. She closed the folder. Shall I read the other 46 letters, Mr. President? We still have 12 minutes. Trump went silent. Crockett continued, voice dropping to a lethal calm. Let us examine who your agents are actually arresting. The overhead monitors switched to a devastating pie chart sourced from DHS data. 73% of ICE arrests in the last 6 months. No criminal record whatsoever. 18%. Traffic violations only. 5%. Misdemeanors. 4%. Felonies. 4%, Mr. President. Only 4% of the people you rip from their families are the dangerous criminals you keep talking about. So tell us. Who exactly are you protecting America from? Trump barked. They still broke the law entering. Crockett's eyes never left his. Then allow me to introduce you to 3 American citizens arrested under your policies. Carlos Martinez, age 68, born Brownsville, Texas. 3 tours in Vietnam. Purple Heart, Bronze Star with V for Valor. His son Eduardo was killed in action in Afghanistan. Since then, Mr. Martinez has raised his 8-year-old granddaughter, Emma, alone. She turned to the chairman. With permission, I would like to play 30 seconds of cell phone footage. The chairman nodded grimly. The monitors came alive with shaky but crystal clear video, a normal school drop-off line, then 4 black SUVs marked ICE screeching to a halt. 8 agents surround an elderly Latino man holding a little girl's hand. Grandpa, the child screams. He was in the army. Please don't take my grandpa. Mr. Martinez calmly produces wallet after wallet. Driver's license, VA card, retired military ID. An agent snaps. Could be fake. We'll verify at the facility. The cuffs click. The little girl lunges, screaming, as agents carry her grandfather away. 72 hours, Crockett said quietly as the video ended. A decorated combat veteran spent 3 days in IC detention because agents decided his VA card might be fake. While he was caged, 8-year-old Emma spent 3 days in Child Protective Services custody because her sole guardian was in federal detention. She placed the intake report on the desk. The arresting agent wrote, and I quote, "Subject highly agitated, repeatedly claiming veteran status and demanding special treatment. Demanding special treatment for producing proof of citizenship." Trump shifted uncomfortably. His chief of staff buried his face in his hands. Crockett was not finished. Roberto Sanchez, age 34, born Providence Hospital, El Paso, Texas. Licensed electrician. 0 criminal record. 3 weeks ago, he was installing wiring at Engine Company 9 firehouse when IC rolled up. The arrest report states, quote, "Subject appeared undocumented based on physical appearance and use of Spanish language. He was detained 18 hours for looking Hispanic while working." And finally, Sergeant James Wilson, active duty 82nd Airborne, 2 tours in Afghanistan, top secret clearance, in uniform at the Fort Liberty Commissary when an IC agent demanded papers. When Sergeant Wilson produced his military ID, the agent replied, and again I quote, "These can be faked. You people steal IDs all the time." He was detained 4 hours on a U.S. military installation until his commanding officer personally intervened. From the gallery, veterans began to stand, one by one, then all at once, silent, ramrod straight, saluting no one and everyone. Crockett let the silence stretch. I have 127 more documented cases of U.S. citizens wrongfully detained under your policies. But let us move to the real question. Who is actually profiting from the suffering? She opened Exhibit B. 3 company logos appeared on screen. American Detention Solutions, CEO Richard Thornton, former real estate developer, 0 experience in corrections. Contract value, $1.2 billion. Campaign donations to Trump entities and Super PACS, $18 million. Patriot Holding Corporation, CEO William Bradford, former steakhouse chain owner. Contract value, $1.4 billion. Donations, $22 million plus a yacht fundraiser. Freedom Facilities Management, CEO Daniel Morrison, former shopping mall parking lot operator. Contract value, $1.1 billion. Donations, $15 million plus Trump National Golf Club membership fees. Total taxpayer money transferred to 3 men with 0 relevant experience in 90 days, $3.7 billion. More than the entire VA mental health budget. More than the Department of Education spent on teacher training. More than the CDC's annual disease prevention budget. Crockett stepped from behind the desk, speaking now to the entire country.
No competitive bidding.
No qualifications required. Just campaign checks in, billion-dollar contracts out. You called it private sector excellence. Let me show you their excellence. She read from DHS inspection reports, her own administration's inspectors, appointed by Trump himself. American Detention Solutions, Arizona, 240% capacity, 2 nurses for 800 detainees, 17 formal complaints of starvation-level food portions, only 4 working showers. Patriot Holding, Texas, minors housed with unrelated adults in violation of federal law, 72% of detainees denied prescribed medication. Freedom Facilities, New Mexico, sewage backups, pest infestations, detainees sleeping on floors, expired food, 0 mental health services despite federal mandate. This is what $3.7 billion bought America, Mr. President. Not safety. Not efficiency. Human warehouses for profit. Trump exploded. Those are deep state lies. Crockett reached into her jacket and produced her phone. What should concern you most, sir, is this. She held it up. Last month, my office received an anonymous recording from a whistleblower inside American Detention Solutions. The call is between you and CEO Richard Thornton. It was recorded in a one-party consent state. Perfectly legal. 3 independent forensic labs have authenticated it. With the chairman's permission, 30 seconds. The chairman nodded. Trump's unmistakable voice filled the chamber. Rich, I need you to understand something. The numbers have to be big. Huge. I need detention numbers that make Obama look weak, make Biden look like a joke. Whatever it costs, we'll make it work. You handle the facilities, I'll handle the contracts. I need those numbers, Rich. I need to prove I'm the strongest president on immigration ever. Something big. The recording ended. 20 seconds of total silence. Trump finally sputtered. That's a deep fake.
I garbage.
Crockett replied softly. We have the phone company metadata. Your personal cell to Thornton's private line, March 3rd, 2:47 p.m., 1 week before you signed the executive order. She sat down. You just heard yourself say, I need those numbers. Not we need to stop cartels. Not we need to protect Americans. I need those numbers. That, Mr. President, is not leadership. That is narcissism with a badge. A murmur swept the room. Crockett reached into her portfolio one final time and withdrew a small velvet box. She opened it gently. A purple heart gleamed under the hearing room lights. This belonged to my grandfather, Staff Sergeant William Crockett, 101st Airborne. He earned it storming Normandy Beach, June 6, 1944. He was 19 years old. He rarely spoke of the war, but he told me one story. 3 days after D-Day, his unit helped liberate a French village. The Nazis had convinced the villagers that Americans were monsters, so everyone hid. My grandfather went door to door in broken French. "We are here to help." Slowly, people came out, children, grandparents, a young mother clutching a baby. They shared K-rations and Hershey bars. One little girl drew him a picture on the back of a Nazi propaganda leaflet, an American flag and a heart. He kept that crayon drawing in his wallet for 63 years until the day he died. She looked directly at Trump. "My grandfather taught me that real patriotism isn't measured by how loudly you praise yourself. It is measured by how faithfully you protect the weakest among us. Your policies do not protect the weak, Mr. President. They terrorize them. Vietnam veterans, 8-year-old American girls, active duty paratroopers in uniform. That is not the America my grandfather bled for on Omaha Beach." The hearing room was silent enough to hear hearts breaking. Then, from the gallery, slow clapping began. A silver-haired Vietnam veteran in a 101st Airborne cap stood, tears streaming, applauding. Another joined, then another. Within seconds, every veteran in the room was on their feet, standing, saluting, weeping. They were not applauding for Trump. Trump stared, mouth open, as the applause for Jasmine Crockett thundered on for nearly a full minute. When it finally subsided, the chairman asked weakly, "Mr. President, do you have any response?" Trump muttered, "This is a witch hunt. I've done more for veterans than anyone." His voice cracked. Suddenly, he exploded again. "I'm leaving. This is a disgrace." He shoved back his chair and stormed toward the exit, aides scrambling behind him. At the doorway stood an elderly veteran, frail but unwavering, extending his hand. "My grandson is in detention right now, sir," the old man said, voice trembling yet clear. "He was born in Corpus Christi. He's a U.S. citizen. His last name is Garcia. They took him anyway." Trump stared at the outstretched hand, said nothing, and pushed past. The doors slammed shut. 10 seconds of silence. Then the chairman whispered, "This hearing stands in recess." No one moved. Veterans began descending from the gallery in a solemn procession. They formed a quiet line in front of Congresswoman Crockett. One by one they shook her hand, some saluting, some simply whispering, "Thank you, ma'am." An ICE agent in uniform, tears rolling, was first. "I've been trying to transfer for months. I don't recognize my agency anymore. Thank you for saying what we couldn't." C-SPAN stayed live for 23 straight minutes of veterans and agents thanking a freshman congresswoman while the President of the United States fled the Capitol. By 6 p.m. that evening, 75 million Americans had watched the hearing live. By midnight, clips had been viewed more than 200 million times. Private prison stocks cratered after the closing bell. CoreCivic down 34%, Geo Group down 41%, combined market cap loss over $4 billion in hours. A petition among ICE agents calling for quota abolition and whistleblower protection gathered 2,314 signatures by sunrise. 3 CEOs were subpoenaed. The FBI opened a criminal investigation into no-bid contracts. 2 U.S. attorneys impaneled grand juries. 1 month later, Congress passed the Veterans and Citizens Protection Act by veto-proof majorities in both chambers, 387 to 48 in the House, 89 to 11 in the Senate. Trump vetoed it. Both chambers overrode him within 48 hours, the fastest veto override in modern history. 6 months after the hearing, wrongful detentions of U.S. citizens had fallen 91%. Gang and trafficking interdictions were up 60%. ICE morale was climbing for the first time in years. The 3 private detention giants collapsed into bankruptcy or fire sales. Their CEOs faced indictments, plea deals, or lifetime bans from federal contracts. And in El Paso, on the site of a former for-profit detention center, they broke ground on the Carlos and Emma Martinez Veteran and Family Center, a place of healing built where terror once reigned. At the dedication ceremony a year later, 9-year-old Emma Martinez stood beside her grandfather and read aloud from her homework notebook. "America means everyone belongs, but you have to work hard every single day to keep it that way." She looked up at Jasmine Crockett standing quietly in the crowd and added, "That's what the brave lady taught us." Veterans in dress uniforms raised a slow salute as the American flag caught the West Texas wind. And somewhere, across 81 years of history, a 19-year-old kid who once stormed a beach in France so the world could be free smiled down on a nation beginning, however imperfectly, to remember what real patriotism looks like. That is the day one freshman congresswoman, armed only with truth, a Purple Heart, and 15 minutes of congressional time, reminded America who we actually are. And the work continues, because democracy is not a gift we inherit. It is a promise we keep, one courageous stand at a time.